Hello, welcome to WolfPunch. This is our review of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. This is the second part. We didn't know we were going to have to break it into two parts, but we have a lot to talk about because there's a lot of movie.
It's a long movie.
It's a long movie. I'm here. This is Zane. I'm here with Kylo Miller.
Kylo Miller.
Doesn't matter.
You know
Dan, Michael, and Yezin. And we're just going to keep talking about this. The last we left off on part one was the length of the movie, kind of what we were just talking about, how long it was. It's 2.5 hours long.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Sorry. You just keep setting yourself up for that.
I really do, yeah.
So, yeah, this is the longest Star Wars movie. It's 2.5 hours. That actually feels longer. And as someone again, that's what she said. As someone who really enjoys longer movies, I actually thought the length of this movie was kind of problematic. I think that it's 2.5 hours is fine if you do the right things with it, but if you don't, it becomes a pacing issue. And I think the movie really did suffer from kind of dragging on.
Oh, yeah.
It has kind of a Return of the King vibe there towards the end, where there are several moments where you think, oh, this is the end.
Yeah.
No, this is the end.
Not quite that bad, but yeah.
Not quite the Return of the King, but
yeah.
Definitely
it doesn't like pan out to like a fucking map.
Yeah. but you had said before, Kyle, that
Kylo.
Jesus Christ. That
I'm the one that looks like Kylo Ren.
Yeah, that's true.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But you were saying that this movie takes forever to do anything.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that like a lot of the plot points, and it's a pacing issue. It's really like they just take forever to get anywhere, to do anything.
And I mean, granted, like I'll admit that like we had gotten there like an hour before the movie started. Then I was sitting there. I saw previews to like a bunch of movies that looked terrible.
Yeah.
So I was cranky. I had to hold that lightsaber because I couldn't set it down because you don't want anybody to steal that.
You can't blame them.
He was very
I know, that's what I'm saying. Is I'm willing to admit that like. So I was already like Captain Cranky Jeans, and I was like, this is running for a fucking minute. And by the time you get down to the salt planet, I'm like, when's this shit gonna end?
You were as salty as the planet.
I was as salty as the planet.
There we go.
Yeah, I had a much different viewing experience than you. Like,
you didn't have to hold a lightsaber, Dan.
No, I didn't. All I had to hold was like the alcohol I smuggled into the theater while I was watching it. And
dude, you know how to go to the movies. I'll tell you.
Dude, yeah, it was good stuff. But maybe that's one of the things. Like, I completely agree that like the pacing of the film leaves a lot to be desired, and like the grievances people have with it. But for me, I never really was like, come on guys, get on with it.
Same here.
Weren't you also blasted though?
Not totally.
Maybe you needed that time to process what was happening.
Okay. Here's the thing. Like, I approached this the same way I approached Rogue One and The Force Awakens, was just to get a little toasty for the film.
Sure, I got you.
Yeah,
and it went a little far, and you were puking in the aisles.
No, he refused to leave.
No. But like, usually, like, I kind of noticed that like I get a bit more cynical because like I was very cynical watching Rogue One and The Force Awakens. Like this one, I was just like, I just felt like a kid enjoying it. It's like, yeah, this whole like side story with Poe and Rose going to like, you know, galactic Las Vegas, trying to find the code breaker and all that. I was like, this is just a fun adventure. I'm happy being here in this world with these characters and enjoying it. Like, if I took another movie like that did the same like plot elements and the same pacing, I'd be like, yeah, this doesn't work so well for me. But personally, like just from how I viewed it, I was just happy to be there and see this unfold.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll say that it's hard for me to pinpoint what exactly needs to be cut, what needs to be changed to fix the pacing issue. But for me, the pacing issue became just the most apparent there towards the end. I know a lot of people have issues with the beginning and the way in the middle and the way the pacing sort of affects a lot of side characters. We'll get into that. But for me, it was at the end when we got to that salt planet and Luke Skywalker shows up, and you already think, like, the moment where he steps out and he's facing that army, I thought that was going to be the ending shot, because of how long the movie had gone on. But then it just keeps going, and I think it's just the most apparent in that prior to that, there was this scene. There's this, actually one of the best scenes in the movie was the one where Kylo Ren betrays Snoke, and then he and Rey fight Snoke's like royal guard together, and then he tells her to join him, and she reveals her parentage, and then it's really emotional, and then they kind of force tug of war over the lightsaber, and it breaks. It's kind of the dramatic high point. It's at the time it seems like it's gonna be the dramatic high point of the movie, and arguably it is.
I didn't want to see either of those characters like again after that. I was like, I just want to process what just happened. Rules.
Well, given what happened, I actually like that I like the way Kylo Ren comes back. He comes back almost, he's angry again. He's like a spurned. Rey essentially rejected him, and now he's mad.
Which I mean, it makes sense. Every time a girl rejects me, I always try to kill all of her friends. I can definitely relate to it, but I'm just saying, like, the movie's too long.
Right.
The movie's too long.
I guess, but I agree that with but I don't know, him selling the score with Luke, that's something that the movie needed in it, unless they were going to cut it at Luke stepping out. But again,
of all the things to be cut, like the ending segments of that after the snow confrontation and then when they're on the assault planet, that is the last thing I would probably say should end up on the cutting room floor.
No, I agree with that. I just think that
well, there are things about it. Like there's just a little bit of humor interjected, like between
Kylo Ren
and Hux.
The movie, again, we talked about humor in the last part. But the humor between Kylo Ren and Hux did not need to happen.
And then all of the shit like inside of the base. There's so much of that. There's no way out. We're trapped in here. So now there's no hope. And then it's like, but maybe there will be a place somewhere.
You did say, we meant to count how many times they mentioned hope in this movie.
Oh my God.
Because
so
many times.
If you had to drink every time they said it, we'd be as blitzed as Dan.
But I guess for me, the harshest point where the pacing really just ruins something is that as dramatic as that bridge sequence is for Kylo Ren, it's even more dramatic for Rey. It's not really she found out, because she awakened sort of her own memory of who her parents really were. And she thought she could change, and we'll talk more about their relationship in the movie, but then when it's a really dramatic emotional moment for them, and then the next time we really see Rey, she's in the Millennium Falcon in a chase sequence going, Yahoo! She's like, it's like a weird...
It's the most blatant example of the movie telling the audience like how to feel. Where it's like, you're excited, friends are coming to help, the Millennium Falcon's back. Oh, they really hate that ship, those bad guys.
It's a sequence that almost feels like... It almost feels like they shot that sequence, and then they didn't know that and the bridge sequence was gonna come after, and they switched them.
She should not have come back until lifting all those rocks. That would have been so much better, because one would be like, oh no, we're fucking trapped because us resistance people can't solve anything ourselves.
And then Rey is here, ironically lifting rocks.
You don't think that her just showing up to lift the rocks wouldn't have been like a big problem with people?
And then they fly away in the Falcon. What's the difference? Because I also hear people complaining like, well, how did she get into the Millennium Falcon? You said that last night, right?
I did.
I drink a lot. I can't remember who tells me things. So I was mocking you to you.
I did that earlier.
Basically, it's like, well, how did she get into the Falcon? It's like, who fucking gives a shit? That's...
Space magic.
It's science fantasy. They're lifting rocks with their minds.
That's true.
Well, where did the lighter fluid come from? But yeah, so that to me, that's my big issue with the pacing. But I know some people associated it more with kind of the minor characters and their arcs throughout the story.
I was going to say real quick, I think the bigger issue with pacing was the ship chase. That was just so long.
So long and boring.
Ooh, I don't know about boring.
It was
definitely
boring.
way too
long. It went on too long. I wouldn't say boring. I
Which
really
ship
enjoyed
chase
it.
are we talking about?
At the very beginning?
The escape.
with Holdo. Like
the escape. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm doing.
like them trying, like their fuel cells or whatever.
The crux of it.
Well, that's their whole. Okay. So now I want to talk about side characters for a minute because this brings up my point. When I watch the original trilogy, I always think of them more as like adventure movies. You know, I mean, I know it's Star Wars and there is a war happening, but it always feels very secondary because, like, when you watch Empire, they're all with the rebels, and then Hoth gets like fucked in the face, and they got to go fly away. And like you're not following like Han and Leia and Chewie and 3PO as a part of the rebellion. You're following these characters. All of the side characters in this movie are just lumped in with the Resistance, and you're just watching that effort. So, like, when Finn and Rose go to Las Vegas, like, my brain is still like, all of your friends are dying in an incredibly slow chase. You're getting arrested over where you parked. Which is just irre-goddamn-sponsible.
Right.
And, like, the same thing with, like, Poe's whole story is just, like, framed around the Resistance, which is fine, I guess, but the movie tries to do, like, the Empire moment, where Empire Strikes Back, 10 out of 10, beautiful, perfect fucking movie, where all of the good guys lose every conflict that they're in, and you're right, like, Luke, you mentioned in the first part of this that in the original trilogy, Luke's biggest weakness is his confidence, which, when you watch Empire, the way movies work is this is the part where he's like, I'm not going to listen to the stuffy little frogman and like the ghost telling me what to do, and I'm going to go save my friends. And then he fails. And so they kind of do that with this movie where it's like all of our heroes are going to try something and then they fail. But the problem is they were never that successful or likable to begin with. And when they fail, they get millions of people killed, or maybe not millions, but they get a bunch of people killed.
Let's say hundreds.
Let's say hundreds. They decimate their own regime with every decision they make. When Luke fucking goes to Cloud City, what's the name of it again? Bespin. I was
Cloud City.
Close enough. When Luke goes to the fucking Cloud place, he doesn't hurt anyone but himself, loses his hand, learns some bad news about his father, and has to be saved by people that didn't even know he was there. But what he doesn't do is get hundreds of people killed and ruin everything for himself.
That's true. Well,
you watch this and it's like, how do I like Poe Dameron? Like, he's funny, I guess.
Sure.
And he does have an arc in the movie.
Finally.
But he breaks so many eggs for that omelet.
I know. But see, that's what
it's
I
not
like
that
about
big an omelet.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a likable character, but I like that because you have, like, in any story, there's so many just like characters, like, you in modern audiences expect the character to eventually succeed. Like with Poe, it's like, oh yeah, he's like rallying everyone together to mutiny and it's going to be great, and it doesn't. It goes terrible for him, and like I feel like that's
like
something.
An asshole,
yeah,
dude.
Exactly. He failed, and like I feel like modern audiences need that. I feel like if he succeeded, it would have been like just okay.
Well, okay,
so it raises better questions.
So you're saying like if he just succeeded and Holdo was just turned out to be a piece of shit, then that would be kind of like standard.
Yeah. So I like that they did something different. Poe's character grows because he keeps failing. He's trying so hard though.
Michael.
You can tell he has the best intentions, but they don't
how hard he's trying.
But they don't necessarily end up great.
How would you feel if you were piloting one of those bombers?
You wouldn't feel anything. You'd be dead.
Yeah, you'd be dead. But then you're in tune with the Force, and your little Force ghost is like, this guy's a fucking prick.
Okay.
But
I'm just saying, like, what if you were Poe and you just did all this, and now, like, shit, I killed all these people because I'm overly confident.
But then what does he do right after that? He's like, mutiny.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Run
on
this shit.
He didn't learn from his mistakes because he's that hard-headed like Han Solo.
The only thing... No.
I went there.
Don't fucking talk to me anymore. Look, I'm just saying, Poe's arc in this movie kind of goes like this. He prank calls the fucking General Hux, and then he fucking shoots a bunch of like laser cannons. Then he's like, "No, we're going in on this. We're all gonna attack this one ship. Hey, you got like 400 people killed today, right?" And he's like, bummer. Sorry. It's like, don't do that shit anymore. All right, I won't. And then it's like, hey, mutiny. I'm going to take over. And then it's like, again, you got a lot of
because they won't tell him anything.
They won't tell me anything, so I'm in charge.
Yeah, he got demoted, so
he got demoted
because his ego is so big. Because you notice whenever like Leia was going to say, or they were going to put someone else in charge,
and then he inadvertently compromises their backup plan because like Benicio del Toro hears about like the escape to the salt planet. And he dimes on him, and then the Empire like fucking.
Which how great was he?
Yeah, I love Benicio del Toro. That's not the point.
He was good. That was a good little side.
I think he served Finn's character well. But anyway, back to your.
But like, and then Poe like gets down to the planet, and like, for the record, the movie is telling you how you should feel about him the whole time. When like Laura Dern and Leia are always like, I like him, but he's a rascal, and it's like by rascal you mean like mass murderer.
Inadvertent.
That's even worse.
Okay.
You're just accident prone.
It's one of those things. I feel like they have to tell you that, like, yeah, you're doing bad things to, get a lot of people killed. Because I mean, like, this is a whole other conversation in itself. But it's a lot how I feel about like Jon Snow and like recently in Game of Thrones. Spoilers for this, but he makes some decisions that have pretty negative consequences, and a lot of them are just kind of glazed over, like, whatever, we love him. Whereas, like, Poe's decisions, it's actually like, yeah, you disobeyed orders, and a lot of people died.
But, like, his redemption in the movie, like, his arc is, like, they're flying towards, like, those AT-ATs, and he's like, we'll stop, because we're going to lose. And then it's like, oh, see, he learned. Yeah. And then it's like, hey, there's no hope, but there's probably hope. We can find a way out of here. And then everybody, Leia's like, why are you looking at me? Fucking follow him. And then he leads them to not the way out.
Yeah.
It was the way out.
Yeah, if you have, like, a friend who can lift rocks with her mind.
The Force guided him there.
They have a Force lift.
Lo and behold, there was a friend that got... I definitely think you're being...
He got lucky.
Like, Poe's not a character who I think they've done very well. No. But I definitely...
I mean, he's fun, but...
I definitely think you're being hard on the concept of, like, whether characters have to be successful in order for us
No, they don't have to... They don't have to be successot.
Well, I think your argument... Like with Poe and, like, a lot of his bad decisions, like, that's not really my problem. I just think that the plot line of Poe and the what is the ladder of authority, like, and the chain of command. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is a kind of a convoluted. A lot of people see it as, like, like, kind of complex and nuanced, but to me, I thought it was just kind of convoluted and didn't belong in this movie with all the other stuff they had. But I definitely don't think that, like, Poe's hot-headed decisions that get people killed are necessarily, like, something that make Poe hard to empathize with or hard to like as a character. I think that they're already in these really high stress underdog situations, and most decisions are going to result in some. Yeah. Like, it's easy to say.
It's so hard to root for the good guys when they're their biggest problem.
I don't know about that. I think it's easy to look in hindsight and say that was a bad decision, but, like, at the time, a lot of Poe's decisions actually seem like they make sense.
Yeah. But again, it seems like it's going to make sense. But again, I keep making the direct comparison, but it's there. They're part of the same franchise. You're doing the Empire thing, and it works so much better in Empire. How is this your favorite Star Wars? You disgust me.
I'm just saying that whether it's better in Empire,
don't say that like it's a question.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, to me, that's kind of a separate question of, well, can we empathize with Poe even while he's failing? And
you can empathize with Poe.
I'm the same way with Finn. I didn't like Finn in The Force Awakens for reasons we mentioned earlier. He just kind of felt like he's the kind of just the fun guy who, like, he fell into a black hole, like, and now he's like a fan in a Star Wars movie. But yeah, so that didn't really work for Finn in The Force Awakens. But here in The Last Jedi, Finn doesn't really, like, he doesn't accomplish anything.
No, I don't like him either.
Finn doesn't. His whole plan ends up actually just making things. It's not Finn's plan, but the plan that Finn
It is Finn's plan. It's Finn and Rose's plan.
Finn and Rose
to get the resistance.
Finn and Rose's journey, like, they do free those abused animals.
Oh, the poor bunny dogs! Thank goodness.
But ultimately they don't succeed. Yeah. And the thing about Finn is he didn't really succeed very much in the last movie. He goes on a rescue mission to save Rey.
No. See, that's part of my
right.
By the time the characters are failing in Empire, you've already liked them.
I know
they all suck in both
But I guess
movies.
my thing is I don't like characters based on how successful they are. I think I didn't like Finn in the first one, but I like him better in this one.
Why?
Because he was less obnoxious.
Was he?
Yeah, and I think
that,
and I think his sort of conflict where like he doesn't really see the point in the whole resistance thing. Because he didn't sign up for that. He was part of the Empire, and he thought that was messed up. And now he just wants to protect the people near him. And then he sort of sees through Benicio del Toro kind of like the flaw. Benicio del Toro's like DJ, master code breaker character.
No, he's a DJ.
Well, I think that's the name,
traveling
right?
DJ.
So he serves as the antithesis, or not antithesis, but he's like Dark Finn. Like he takes Finn's sort of apathy to like kind of an extreme, and in that he sort of makes he sort of humanizes Finn and then also Rose. I think Rose works really well as a character. She's like kind of a low level like resistance cadet kind of character, and she also like her relationship with Finn really works. She's acted really well, and then even though they don't accomplish what they set out to do, and even though Finn doesn't have credit from the first movie of being competent, to me it's not about his competence. His
competence is an example. It doesn't all hinge on that. I mean, my favorite movie is No Country for Old Men, and nobody accomplishes anything in that.
It sucks.
Hey, shut your mouth.
I'm saying Finn and Poe are both trying. It's not
Finn and Poe are both trying, but also their stories are boring and annoying. I don't care about them. I don't like these characters.
So we're on two different
and they just
wavelengths.
and then they don't accomplish anything. And
Actually,
it's like,
we're all on the same wavelength.
so
It's a podcast.
I watched like Space Vegas, and then I'm like, you wasted my motherfucking time. Like it just wasted my time.
Space Vegas.
Like I understand like Rose and Finn's journey, like ultimately did nothing to advance their agenda. Like their plan failed. But like you guys, like I like that it failed. It didn't end up working out. But I do understand that. Especially if you weren't enjoying it, and I was like, "Oh, great! I just wasted all of my time."
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed all of that. So for me, it was
and
like,
then,
"Oh, this is great."
Because you have to see that, like at the end,
I like that they
Finn.
failed.
The thing that worked for me is like by the end, like in The Force Awakens, Finn was kind of obnoxious, but in this, by the end of the movie, Finn
he learned to not run away because there were people that he cared about.
Yeah,
like the same thing that he did in the last movie. Interesting.
One person he cared about because he had a crush on her. Right?
That's true.
Yeah, but now I think now it's kind of the first time it was like, well, he's just saving Rey. Yeah. Now he kind of like he
has the same arc, just with more people.
Yeah,
but if that works for you, that works for you.
Now it doesn't for me. It's not more people. It's not, again, it's not those resistance people. It's the resistance itself. It's the idea of the resistance.
Sure.
Let's talk
about
because he didn't know the people in the bunker except Rose and Poe. What it was, and they were both outside. It was the idea of the resistance itself and the idea of not giving a shit.
Sure.
It was him finding a purpose in what he was doing and all this, aside from just protecting.
So I think that sets us up for the third movie. Now Finn is an actual member of the Resistance.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think again, it's not the best part of the movie.
Mm-hmm. It's a sloppy way of getting there.
But I don't think that the fact that they weren't successful negatively affects.
I'm just saying, Finn was a character that had so much potential right from the when I saw the trailer for The Force Awakens, and you see that he's a stormtrooper. Like 3 scenarios went through my mind where it's like, oh, he either defected because he disagreed with what the First Order was doing, or he's a spy, or he was taken from birth and then he just doesn't know how to interact with people and he's going to be a totally different character that we've never seen before. And they were like, no, he's a janitor, and he left.
And he watched all the Star Wars movies before.
And he watched all the Star Wars movies before, but he can't shoot anything. He doesn't know how to use a lightsaber. He doesn't know how to fly a spaceship.
Yeah.
Which is the most common thing in Star Wars. Fucking droids can do it.
Sure, yeah. BB-8 drives a AT, what?
AT&T.
So it's just, I feel like in both movies, I don't hate Finn, but in both movies, Finn is always used as a red herring of he's set up to make you think that he's going to do something.
Sure.
And then it's like, but he doesn't. Like in the first movie, like we start with him, and then we're following him and Rey, and like it's clearly Rey's story, but he's a really big part of it. And like he gets a hold of a lightsaber and stuff, and you're always wondering, well, like what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's
what he lied about even knowing how to turn off the shields in the in the giant Death Star.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess what I'm saying is like give this character something.
Well, let's talk about another character that needed something and that was totally pointless. Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
Once again, completely, totally wasted.
Yes.
Nothing.
See, that's
nothing.
the problem for me with this movie is there's like we have the excuse of saying like we watched The Force Awakens and it's like, well, they didn't do anything with like these people this time, but now in the carryover, it's like there's an expectation here that's not lived up to.
Exactly, and like Phasma. Like, I think I've seen, like, interviews. I mean, Gwendolyn Christie, she's great in...
as Brienne of Tarth.
Yes,
Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Game of Thrones. But...
From the Stormlands.
But, like, and she's, like, in all the press tours and everything for this movie. And you think, like, oh, shit, they're actually going to do some justice for this character. And
justice for
they don't. At all. And she dies again.
Yeah.
Well, she only died one time.
Well, I remember,
she was on the planet, and you thought, she's dead. Whatever.
Well, I remember before Force Awakens came out, I went on record saying I feel like Phasma's going to be my favorite character.
Yeah, and I hated you.
Just by the way she looks. There's something about that
stormtrooper
with a gigantic fucking helmet. She looks like an idiot.
So gigantic. Everything. She's giant.
Yeah.
And then I was let down, so I was like, oh, I had no expectation this time around because of that. And then I was glad I didn't because
she's just an absolute waste of
screen time. Yeah, character
of
Gwendolyn Christie's time.
Exactly. Just a
I don't know if being in
waste.
Star Wars is a waste of anyone.
No. I get that, but like,
except Max von Sydow.
I don't know if being in Star Wars is a waste of fuck that. It's a useless part. It was a waste of Andy Serkis' time. It was a waste of fucking Gwendolyn. Yeah, Gwendolyn.
Okay, well, I will say that I don't get. This is another weird one where I'm weirdly the positive one on this. Normally I'm negative.
What's to be positive about this?
I just don't think. I don't think it was all that. I don't think Phasma was bad. I think that so there's like kind of an expectation with all the press tours and stuff that Phasma has to be this big character. Like, because
don't blame the fans for this. This is clearly an intentional move.
No.
Like, let's have a giant silver.
I'm not saying that they. I'm not saying that they aren't misleading. I'm just saying that if you didn't watch any of those, if you like, I didn't watch any interviews before the movie. I didn't hear
watch a trailer. You know, like Gwendolyn Christie's in the movie.
Was she in the trailer?
To be a toy.
Yes, she was.
She's
I don't even remember.
She's on the same level.
I don't even remember her in the. I'm talking about in the Last Jedi trailer. I don't even remember in those trailers.
There was like a scene where like Finn and
her staying.
Oh yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is like again, it's not a great part of the movie, but for me, like I wasn't expecting a big role for Phasma.
Well, it's not big.
And so when I watch it, or an interesting role, I was just expecting. Oh, what is Phasma? She's just kind of a big stormtrooper.
Gwendolyn Christie
because it's a gimmick where they're nerds are gonna like cream their jeans over the fact that we've got Brienne of Tarth.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I just that if you don't,
why are you excusing
how you were worried that like Luke being able to survive those blasts jumping in the shark, Phasma being a high-ranking stormtrooper captain. And getting her butt kicked several times by a janitor.
Well, the first time they finished,
like you got that going. You have Hux, who doesn't look like he's competent. You have Kylo Ren in charge, who I love, but doesn't seem competent. Like it's breaking this world for me a little bit. As much as I went on record saying I love this movie, but these little things are starting to kind of break the world, and that's why I think a little thing that Phasma is not a big part, but like it doesn't make sense for the story and the setup.
She doesn't need to be a huge character, but she, like, if you're going to have Gwendolyn Christie come out to be this chrome plated stormtrooper.
You guys are really big on Gwendolyn Christie.
I'm just saying that she's tight. And
Brienne of Tarth.
It doesn't.
I have to remember to not call her Agatha Christie.
Well, the thing is, Gwendolyn, Brienne of Tarth defeats the Hound in a fight.
Shut up.
It's not the books of Game of Thrones, but she's a very competent knight.
Yezin loves Game of Thrones, listeners.
Yeah,
if you didn't catch that.
Little side story.
Well, I know a little bit about it.
Anyway,
I guess all to me again, all of this rings meta. When you think of it's Gwendoline Christie, all of those press tours, all of that is
meta is such a fucking.
I'm saying if you just watch the movies, in The Force Awakens, that character is kind of like ambushed and like kind of thrown out,
bonked on the head, and like they just
bonked on the head, completely betrays everything that she believes in.
Exactly. Yeah.
But in this one,
she does the same thing.
In this one, she kind of just loses a fight. And again, because she loses a fight kind of in an ambush, not an ambush, but like she kind of gets sucker punched by Finn there.
Yeah. Like she won that fight
She won that fight.
But you don't know the schematics of the ship you live on, you idiot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the schematics have been thrown out of the whack at that point. It was.
So there's an uppy downy thing right there.
An uppy.
What do you want to call it? It's Star Wars.
Vader.
Yeah,
lift. I don't know.
Lift.
It's not like a great thing. It didn't bother me. Like when I'm watching the movie, I don't think like
But it's like
Gwendoline Christie's Phasma performance just didn't live up.
I think this gets back to like the bigger problem of like there's just too much shit in this movie that could have been cut out.
Bigger problem though, because you guys are complaining that there's not enough of like Phasma doing stuff. I think it's just the Boba Fett syndrome where it's like, wow, they look really cool. I can't wait to see what they do, and it like was exacerbated by the fact that Gwendoline Christie was cast at that. So like, this is gonna be such a huge deal. But it's like, no, she's just there to look cool and
fine.
No, see,
cool. But
we understand that. I think that what we're saying is that's dumb.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's things that look cool have to do awesome shit, and things that don't.
I would prefer that like if you're gonna look cool, be cool.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Like again, all this is fine. She can look cool and do nothing.
Then why are you yelling so much if it's fine?
Because the problem again is she breaks the logic of the world. If she's not competent at her job,
that's true.
This giant.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's a bit of a leap. I wouldn't say that it breaks the world. It is annoying that
this breaks the world.
But I do think it's annoying.
On top of a bunch of things. Yeah. Like it's all these little things.
Sure, but for me, Hux is a much bigger issue.
Hux is a bigger issue.
Sure, Hux is a bigger issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Is like her with Hux, with Kylo, like the First Order.
Pylo Ren over here.
Shouldn't function properly. Like they seem more put together than the Resistance, yet they're led by
the Resistance people. Is only losing because they kill themselves.
Speaking of, can someone tell me? I might have missed this. Why won't Laura Dern's character reveal her plan to the people she's supposed to be trying to save? That's really annoying. Like, of course he's going to try and mutiny. Why couldn't she just say, hey, this is what we're doing, and prevent all of that?
Because you're supposed to think that she's evil, and you're supposed to think that Poe is right.
It's another red herring that they throw into the movie.
But that just, again, that's just a little nitpick thing that also really bothers me.
Like her, I really, like, as much as I like Laura Dern as an actress, I just think that her character was superfluous. She shouldn't have been there. Like all of that stuff could have been accomplished by Leia. Like having Poe argue with Leia instead and like cause a mutiny against her.
Yeah.
Like that would have been big.
That would have taken a bit more setup to have Poe do a mutiny against Leia.
Yeah.
I feel like because it's been it was definitely established that like they are like. He basically
Leia is their spiritual leader.
Sure, I get that.
To me, she's royalty and stuff. That would have taken a lot more.
But like, if the whole thing, like his whole arc is like learning to become a leader,
learning to have thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like that would have been like even if half the people were like, yeah, let's join Poe because we don't agree with this at all. Like, and the other half are like, no, fuck you. We want to like. Back Leia, like
so. You know what's weird about this?
But this also gets back to like I think she should have been the person who did the kamikaze. So
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. But it also
Leia should have been the
yes.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that
she was.
I get that. It's not about It's not about Carrie Fisher's death.
I don't agree with that just because
I feel like she isn't too important.
Ultimately, I think they have a plan for Leia. I think they have a plan between. I think there is going to be some kind of. I don't know how with Carrie Fisher's death. I think there is some kind of final resolution to the relationship between Kylo Ren and his mother. Mm-hmm. I think that. So I think that having her do the kamikaze on the ship actually.
Yeah,
it's kind of a waste.
Anything,
honestly,
yeah.
I think that Kylo Ren and his mother need some kind of resolution.
He already thinks she's dead, though.
Does he?
I mean, he didn't pull the trigger.
Oh right,
on the
But I'm sure
he hit them.
I'm sure he can like feel her with the Force.
Yeah, you can't sense that shit. What are you doing?
I'm just saying, address it. Then
I just think that it's coming up, so they're not going to do that.
Well, I think that.
So how about Rose? That's a big new character. What do you guys?
Is she a big new character?
She took a lot of space.
Yeah, I like Rose, but
she was fine. I liked her.
I enjoyed her.
I think.
Yeah. She's delightful.
I like that now there's, I guess in the new, because the new movie, I'm assuming now there's going to be this weird double love triangle thing going on where you got Rey, who has feelings for Finn and Kylo, and then Finn has feelings for Rey and Rose, possibly. I think that could be
Rose, possibly?
Honestly, to me, it feels like they're just... It genuinely feels like they don't know where they're going with a lot of these things. They kind of workshop it along the way. I feel like, so I don't know if anyone else caught this, but in towards the very end of the movie, when Poe introduces himself to Rey, she just seems, there seems to be like a weird like spark there. Like they're like kind of workshopping it. Like if people start shipping Poe and Rey, then we'll do that romance in the next movie. If not,
because it was already Poe and Finn.
That's the thing. It's like they know that people ship things, so I almost felt like they teased it there. Because like when they introduced, like Rey's smiling quite a bit when she's introduced to Poe, and it's like the very end of the movie, just not it's like a weird time for that, but.
I didn't catch that.
I think.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
But anyway,
you might be right. I don't know.
Speaking of like 50 Shades of Rey, let's talk about one of the biggest driving.
Adam driving.
The biggest driving forces.
Oh Jesus!
Just go off.
Oh my god.
The relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren, which is I guess they know. I don't know if this is how they did it. It's almost like they noticed all the people shipping them on the internet. Which from the first movie, I just didn't. There was nothing romantic about any of their interactions.
No,
I kind of picked up on things.
Did you?
Yeah.
To me, it was just like weird and creepy.
Yeah, no, I definitely picked up on
That's how you meet women.
It would be weird.
You tie them up, you interrogate them. You're like, tell me about that droid.
All right,
let me read your mind.
All right,
Kyle. What are you doing? All right, they don't get it, Michael.
It's very apparent this is a podcast of dudes. So then they took that like kind of shipping and they actually made on paper. I would not have expected that to work, but I actually thought it really did
really well.
In this movie, you have this like weird Rey Kylo Ren romance,
sexual tension
/ tension, even going so far as like they do a scene where he's not wearing a shirt.
That actually was funny.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
And like I saw Michael from the corner of my eye like fantasy.
All right, so like, how'd you guys feel about that?
About what?
That romance and how it played out. Like for me,
I'm really excited to see where it goes. I mean,
Do you think it's gonna go on? Do you think it's not over?
I don't think it's over. I think that there's still a definite possibility that Kylo can turn. That's why I like his character, because even though right now he's like the ultimate bad guy in a way, he could still be.
You're the classic. I can change him.
He beats me, but this time it'll be different. You're his record.
I guess now that you say that, it's not the best message for this children's movie. But
Oh boy.
You just.
I just really like Kylo Ren, and I'd like for him to be a good guy. What can I say? That's.
I don't think there's any room for that. I think he's the antagonist of the movie.
Yeah.
Who else would it be? Hux?
Maybe we'll not get more
terrible third half.
Force Ghost Snoke.
You're right. I mean, you're right, but I hope. Hope, guys.
Oh,
Hope.
Jesus.
And now we drink.
But even so, even if he doesn't, I like that there's that relationship. I like that they have those feelings even if they never will act on them, and they know that it can't happen.
And you thought throughout the movie, because the movie kind of does you thought they were twins.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I definitely more twins.
And then it started getting way sexual, and I was like,
way sexier.
I was like, oh, this is maybe they're I don't know, maybe they're not. And then,
but you hope they are.
Well, yeah.
Forbidden love. What beats that?
Yikes. I don't know. I think it was surprisingly a really good. To me, it was like almost the core of the movie. Is that there's of course Rey has every reason to hate Kylo Ren, but at the same time she has a lot of empathy for him. Like they're kind of connected by each other, and she sort of kind of feels his pain, and she kind of feels his like isolation, and she relates to it. And so she thinks to herself like, wait, now that I know what his backstory is, now that I know his trauma, now that I know his like relationship to people I know, maybe he can be, maybe I can change this person. And then him at the same, he just wants Kylo Ren, he just wants someone to
wants chicks to understand him.
Yeah, he just wants someone to understand him.
My dark clothes and my dark hair.
And I think he also has like a fascination with Rey. He's fascinated by her use of the Force. It's like, oh, I can have a cool Force girlfriend.
Yeah. And that's how it starts. At first you try to mansplain the Force to her. You need a teacher, because like, what's more threatening than a beautiful woman entering your dojo? So like, you've got to put her in her place.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so everyone knows, while we're recording this, Kyle is wearing like a karate gi.
And it is all black.
Well, that's what I love about Kylo Ren, though, is that he, like, his arc in this movie, like, I can understand why he is the way he is. Like, they did a good job at that, because how would you feel if your uncle was going to murder you? Honestly, like, that's great.
Yeah, it definitely has like
it makes me want, like, I understand why I could totally see doing what he did, because your uncle almost friggin' murdered you.
Yeah, and then it kind of
the Jedi.
It carries out throughout the movie. You have their weird like Skype sessions.
Yeah, how'd you guys feel about that?
Oh, I loved it.
I thought those scenes really worked well.
Yeah, I thought it was something that you didn't something like it's really good movie problem solving with kind of the world they have. Like you would expect something like that where like, oh, we want to do more with Rey and Kylo Ren. So maybe like first she's training, then she goes and they have to be physically. They realize that, well, they don't have to be physically in the same place for us to do this.
But one of my favorite parts is when Luke opens the door and they're like touching hands and he's like, no! It's like a parent walking in. It's like a parent walking in on like two teenagers like in the room. It's like no! No, it was so funny to me. I laughed at. I mean, I was invested in the story, but I like. Inside, I was thinking the entire time. It's like my mom walking in when I had like a girl in the room.
Yeah. And then he straight up destroys the entire room with the Force.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yes, yeah.
But I mean, like, part of what really worked for me about that relationship was they were manipulated into it.
Yeah.
So it was like So it's like an easier pill to swallow of like, oh, they just fall in love. It's like, no, they're like forced to do it, basically. And then like, then they kill Snoke because like, they felt like they had a real connection, and it's like they even Skype with each other after he's dead, like. Because he was like, I'm the one that used the Force to bring you together. And it's like, bitch, we're doing that on our own now. She's dead.
Well, do you think it's a lasting... I was going to ask, do you think it's like the connection's still there?
We still got some battery life going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think now it's between
That's a good question.
You think that they're doing it themselves then?
Yeah.
I don't know. At that last moment, like, Rey kind of, like, she closes the door. Like they're looking at each other and she closes the door, and you have to wonder, like,
is that her shutting it off? Like,
is that her shutting it off and deciding?
I don't think so.
Because there is kind of a sense, like Luke, when he comes to see. No, actually, I'm gonna say when he comes to see Kylo Ren as a Force Ghost. At one point, he says, like, he's like, "Are you here to change me?" And he's like, "No." And then, so I got the sense that no, Luke is here to kill him. But then we find out that he was a Force Ghost the whole time. It was never on the table. Yeah. So there's that sort of question left, and I don't even know if they know or they probably
The script isn't finished.
the script isn't finished, so you have to wonder like, is the thought of Kylo Ren turning even on the table? Is it?
Well, they've got to wait to see how fans react to this movie, and for fans to tell them.
Yeah,
what to do.
If anything, I think he could turn the last minute before he dies.
Yeah, like Arthur.
I don't. But the thing is, the weird thing about it is that there's really no one for him to turn against, except Hux.
Sure, he'll stab himself.
But I think that
He is emo, so.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst that I can say? Things are better. Never mind. Yeah, it's definitely a thing where that connection might be done. They might. It's really open right now, but it definitely we are left with a really compelling, like uncharted territory for this last movie.
Yeah.
The hero is a former love interest / rival of the true villain of the story.
Yeah.
And again, it really. I got to bring up again that bridge sequence where they're like fighting together. That also kind of was a really good culmination of that, like of those Skype sessions. Like, well, now they're fighting together and they make such a good team. And and it's good because they tease the audience with look how good a team they could be.
Yeah.
If he joined her,
Really rips your heart out.
and then
It does.
It's a great sequence.
It's great.
I absolutely.
Their scenes are definitely the highlight of.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Them and Luke.
Luke too.
Luke too, yeah.
All the Jedi horse shit in
Yeah,
this movie
this is the best.
is a 10 out of 10.
All the other stuff kind of is okay.
That's where I dip out.
But
Where they're like, oh, this movie's coming out around Christmas time, so we have to have BB-8 do a million things.
Oh, boy.
So that every kid has 12 BB-8 toys under their tree.
Yeah. Well, that's another. I mean, that's always been.
that's part of the Star Wars.
Yeah,
That's
Star
yeah,
Wars.
yeah.
You got the Ewoks were brought in to sell shit too. It's
I don't like them either.
they're
Samuel L. Jackson.
yes,
Brought in.
Samuel L. Jackson. Got to get that purple lightsaber. People love new
I
lightsabers.
did need a Samuel L. Jackson toy as a kid, and
I'm
I
sure
got one.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's like a ton more that we could talk
Well,
about.
I think actually another something we haven't really talked about is where do you guys see it going from here?
I don't want to. I don't want to get into that.
Would you recommend it, and where do you see it going?
See, I'm the only. I don't want to do speculation. The only thing about like Star Wars that I'm actually really interested in now is that Disney gave Rian Johnson his own trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like
That's the most interesting.
That's
thing.
the most interesting thing. Like, no idea what it is, no idea what it's going to be.
The fans are already upset that it's not Knights of the Old Republic, and I love
Yeah,
that.
and it's like, go
fuck
fuck
that.
yourself.
I
do
know I'm
something
a minority
new.
here, but I like all these new. I like the new. I like the new characters.
Exactly.
I like
Yeah.
the words.
Give me
blazing
new
new
story.
paths. We're not
That's-
going back.
Yeah.
Exactly what I
as
enjoyed
much-
about this film is not knowing what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think he did a good job at surprising everybody.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
really good filmmaker. It's so weird that Disney was like, oh, we've got to give the new Star Wars to someone. How about the guy who made the movie where Bruce Willis kills children and you kind of root for him?
What's even weirder about that is Disney loved him every step of the way with the production, at least like what we hear about it. Because
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like they fired the heck out of the people that were making the Han Solo
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
They fired the heck out of the guy who made Fan Four Stick, Josh Trank. He was
Yeah.
originally supposed to do a solo Boba Fett movie, and then as soon as they heard like word that things were kind of hazy with him, they fired him immediately. They have no qualms about just getting rid of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And-
they love Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, he's like the only one besides
Did he
Lucas
direct
to
an
write and
episode of
direct.
Breaking Bad?
Yeah,
Yes.
he directed
Yeah.
multiple episodes.
Yeah,
of
I was
Breaking
gonna
Bad.
say.
Was it Ozymandias?
Yeah, that was it. Yes,
That was one of them.
Oh hell yeah!
No, Ryan Johnson is the shit.
and he's an incredibly talented film.
The fact that like Disney is handing him the keys to a really big damn castle is like
Yeah.
this
That
is very cool.
is
So I will
amazing.
say-
Cinderella's
And-
castle.
Yeah, that's the one.
In that regard, I find it's going to take a lot for me to get excited about episode 9 because now it's going back to JJ.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say.
And now it feels like it's just going to be pandering.
Because it seems like Ryan Johnson undid a lot of things that maybe
Yeah.
weren't working
Yeah.
in Force
And
Awakens.
now
Now worried.
Yeah.
They're
Another
just going to put him
undoing.
back into place
And
and they're
it's-
going to try to appease
like
him.
They're going to waste fit screen
You and I
time
have
to do
talked
that,
about this
too.
before, where it's like, I'm an old dog. I'm set in my ways. I have my Star Wars movies, and I don't need more. And I know that's like a big problem that I have to overcome. So I always think of these Disney Star Wars movies as like professionally made fan films.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean that as an
Yes.
undercut,
Yeah.
you know. but it's like J.J. Abrams does the first one, and you're like, obviously. Rian Johnson, you're like, that's fucking interesting, man. And it's like a good movie.
That's fucking interesting.
That's fucking interesting, man. So then you're like, there's kind of some fun in like, well, who's gonna wrap it up? And then they're like, J.J. Abrams again.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's so boring.
I don't want to speculate on whether it's going to be good or bad or anything because it doesn't matter.
But I do see the point. Like I think that this one, it sets it on such a one of the reasons why I'm kind of prone to speculation now. Like I mean, I'm not speculating about like Snoke's origins and like weird shit. How does this tie into
the
other things?
inconsequential shit.
I don't think about that, but I do think about like, well, how are Rey and what's going to happen with Rey and Kylo Ren moving forward? Like how does this all resolve? That is something that I like to think about, but I think that right now we're kind of set up, regardless about how people, there are qualms with the movie, but the movie sets up such an interesting, it's set up such like interesting dynamics between key characters, to the point where like, this is whoever gets it has good stuff to work with. They don't have to deal with Snoke. Their Rey's parentage is over. Now just make a good conclusion to this this trilogy. Yeah. But then it's J.J. Abrams. Yeah. And he really did. Like I do not think The Force Awakens is.
It's just like movie. The whole scene where Kylo is praying to Darth Vader's helmet. I feel like J.J. Abrams does that to like a picture of Steven Spielberg. Like,
every night.
Yeah, where he's like, I feel the urge to be a good person. Tell me how to not be.
So, would you recommend this movie, Kyle?
I don't need to recommend this movie. It's fucking Star Wars.
That's true.
Everyone's gonna go see it.
I know we spent a lot of time talking about things we didn't like and a lot of time we did things we did like.
Yeah,
did you enjoy the film?
You enjoyed some of it.
I enjoyed some of it. That's the thing is.
Did you enjoy it more than you disliked it?
I don't know. This is what I'll say. There are parts of this movie that I absolutely love that I didn't expect to. There were things that I really didn't like.
Yeah.
If this was some obscure movie where my recommendation meant anything, I would recommend it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it definitely like makes me excited about Rian Johnson doing more Star Wars, and I do respect the fact that like this really went into the Force. It did some like unconventional things.
Sure.
And then it like some that were like totally unexpected, and then some that just felt like it was mimicking the old trilogy. Cool. In not a good way.
How about you, Dan?
I thoroughly love this film. This is like the first time in a long while I've been excited about Star Wars. The movie definitely has issues, definitely has problems, but the highs of it just make everything like much more palpable. Like if this wasn't a Star Wars film,
Senator Palpable?
Shut up.
Senator Palpable?
It's quite agreeable. But no, if this wasn't a Star Wars film, I feel like I'd be much less forgiving of it. But I wanted to love it. I wasn't expecting to, but it just feels great. Like that I know that like I'm able to now. And to an extent, I am afraid of, episode 9, them undoing a lot of things that I really enjoy. And for that part, I almost want to just consider this like kind of just an end to it for me. I would like to see where the whole Rey-Kylo relationship goes. That's also like really interesting. I am worried, again, echoing what we said before about them undoing like Rey's lineage and whatnot, but it worked for me. Like I love that it took chances. I love that it surprised me. And like just the highs of it just completely eclipsed all the lows.
How about you, Kemp?
I absolutely loved it. After the day after I saw it, I sat down and tried to think about my ranking of the Star Wars movies, and I was already in the minority with Force Awakens being my favorite because I just love all these characters so much. And then this one took all those characters that I loved and made them even more complex. So this is now, barring reviewing it and seeing something I didn't before, like this is definitely my favorite Star Wars movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm gonna yell at you more.
How about you, Yazan?
Okay, so I would definitely recommend this movie but of course, like Kyle says, I don't think I need to recommend it. Everyone's gonna go see it anyway.
It made over 200 million, already.
If you
in the US alone.
If you watched or if you listened to all of this part 2 and you haven't seen this movie yet, what's wrong with you? Come on. I think it's worth anyone's time. I think that they made all the right moves in terms of fixing, course correcting after The Force Awakens and opening us up to like a good, the potential for a good third act. And I think more than that, one reason why I just want to recommend this movie and why I want to kind of be positive about this movie compared to how I normally am is the negative one, is all the fanboy rage, I think. Like, I don't want, because this kind of rage that's like kind of this negative backlash on this movie is not something we saw with The Force Awakens, and I don't want Disney to go back and play it safe with the third one or with any movies anymore. I want, this is the right, even though it retains a lot of the awful toy selling and a lot of the awful I need to do a joke every 5 seconds, it moves in the right direction in terms of not pandering and not playing it too safe. And I'm afraid that all of the fanboy rage and all of the backlash is just going to make them go, well, you know what was safe? The Force Awakens. That had a better opening too. Let's do that again. And then the next time we're just going to have like constant callbacks, plus the little added thing of like, oh, let's do something for the fans. And something for the fans means we find out that like the drunks that were Rey's parents were actually like Obi-Wan's kids. And then like, or like
explaining like Snoke's backstory.
Or like we find out Snoke's backstory and like Snoke's son shows up and he's like,
oh no.
And he's like
it's actually Hux the whole time.
And it's like he's like a Sith Lord
from
like the temple under Jakku, which is why Rey has her powers. Like, we don't want that.
Oh my god!
I think.
Speak for yourself. That sounds great.
I think that. No, you don't. I think the difference between this movie really is like kind of encapsulated in the difference between Harrison Ford in the Force Awakens and Mark Hamill in this. In the first one, it just feels like lazy.
It's static. It's completely static. There's no
and then with Mark Hamill, there's like a spark. There's like love for what he's doing, and it plays like the end is touching. As someone who doesn't get emotional over Star Wars, I got emotional over the end of Luke Skywalker.
Okay, let me ask this question to everyone except for Michael. Ranking it out of all 9 Star Wars movies that we've gotten, what number?
4.
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't. I mean,
3.
I maybe 5, 4, 5.
5.
4.
Yeah,
4.
I think 3 or 4.
4, I think.
I'd say 4.
Yeah,
including Rogue One.
No, I did not include Rogue One.
No, I was including.
Oh, you were. Okay.
That's why I said that.
Oh yeah, you said 9.
Does that change anything though?
No. No.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. The only question is like, is there? Yeah, I don't think that's that difficult a question to answer.
Yeah.
I just think that this is the direction. Like everything, I don't know. I don't want to sound too simplistic, but like if you run it through a filter, like what compared to The Force Awakens, like how is this movie? And everything is better. Everything is better than what it was. Which means it's definitely the right direction, and I don't want them to go in any ways back towards The Force Awakens.
Yeah. No, I don't either.
So maybe if they fucking listen to WolfPunch, they'll know better.
Oh, you didn't? No, Disney executives.
Yeah, I'm sending this to Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Tonight. Yeah. So.
Kathleen Kennedy is going to Skype in for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get her on the horn. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Or we can Skype call her, like Ray and.
Actually, I've been force connecting with her lately.
Oh, weird.
Oh yeah.
It sounds
Did
really.
you tell her about punching J.J. Abrams?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Same thing. I'm just gonna reiterate. I know I don't have to give this movie a recommendation because it's fucking Star Wars and everybody's gonna see it.
Don't fuck you.
I enjoyed parts of it. I didn't enjoy parts of it. I'm kind of middle of the road, but it's better than The Force Awakens. I'll say that. And a lot of other Star Wars movies, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a million more things that we could talk about.
Were you
obviously.
entertained by it?
Was I entertained by it? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We go to see movies to be entertained, and we're all entertained.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps up.
Yeah, I mean, last thing, like, to any dudes out there that are like listening and like maybe you're having trouble meeting women, I would definitely recommend this movie. You gotta
Take after Kylo
look
Ren.
at what Kylo Ren does. He is a master.
Let me tell you, I was taking notes.
First of all, definitely intrude on their personal space and or like call them all the time, even when they don't want to talk to you.
With your shirt off.
Make the conversation about you as much as possible.
Make the conversation about you.
No one understands you.
Good Lord.
Consistently justify actions that you've done that she finds deplorable.
Like killing your father.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Like killing your father.
Or other people's
Or
fathers.
other people's fathers. Also, when you're really going to ask her out, when you're really making the sell, make sure to tell her that she's nothing to anyone except you.
That part I thought was sweet.
I mean, that's straight out of Red Pill right there. Like, it's perfect.
Make her know that she only matters to you.
So she feels dependent on you.
There you go.
The Dennis system.
It's like the Dennis system.
Yeah.
It's the Kylo system.
Exactly. Yeah, K stands for kill your father. Anyway, so yeah, I think that wraps it up. Join us next time with our 3-part review of Jumanji.
That's not going to happen.
I'm just kidding. That's not happening. Yeah, WolfPunch out.
Yeah, we're done.
Yes, yeah.
May the punch be with you.
May the punch be with you. I like that.
All right, that's an A.
WolfPunch.